Welcome to He Did This to Me, the sports podcast from a father and son who happen to be mostly optimistic Jets, Knicks, and Mets fans. My name is Nick, aka Goody, and with me is my old man, aka the big guy, Noel. And just like his name, all we do is win. Let's get to the show. It's time to begin. The New York Jets dominate the Texans 30-6. Get a big win. Zach Wilson comes back and has arguably the greatest game of his pro football career. Talk to me, big guy. How we feeling about the Jets? How we feeling about this victory this past Sunday?
It was a good win against what before was considered a very good team. I still think they're considered a good team. We really put it on C.J. Stroud. Clearly, clearly he wasn't in his element that day. And let's face it, Zach played well. This is not I think Zach obviously had the best game of his career. He played really well. He played poised. He played loose. I hope we see more of that. In the coming weeks, it's going to make some interesting conversations going forward for sure. But the entire offense played well. And that's just it. People say, "Oh, well, Zach finally did this. He finally did that." Well, they kept him a little cleaner, and he was able to escape and stay clean when he wasn't getting sacked. So I think that made a big difference. And the times when they weren't able to get to him, it's because the offensive line played actually a decent game this week. They played a decent game. The running backs picked up blitzers, and so it made the offense look a lot smoother. But, a lot of people want to say, well, Zach just played well, and Zach did play well, but it's not just all on him. The quarterback, although he gets all the credit and all the blame, he is a product of what's around him and how everybody's playing around him, and I think we saw that this week.
Yeah, absolutely. And when it comes to Zach, we did see him play. It really wasn't even the game. It was the second half. The second half is when he really just blew up. And I think that what we saw is that it's making me lean a little bit more towards that Zach is a product of his environment this year, as opposed to Zach just doesn't get it. Now, there are some things that I wish he would be better at. In the first half, he takes that sack and takes us out of field goal range. We lose 3 points right there. He even said after the game, I got to figure out a way not to take that sack. The rush was immediately up, but I want him coming out of the huddle saying to himself, one thing I can't do right here is get sacked. And you know what? Sometimes it may still happen, but I would like to see him do better. And he even commented on it in the post game. So I like to see that he is at least, getting those details. One thing we have seen about him is that quite often when there is something that's glaring, he does make an adjustment. But I look at the game and I think to myself, you know what? Zach did certain things better than he typically does. I thought one of the big things was the very quick dump offs to Brees. He threw it to Brees quickly. Like, he didn't wait and look down the field and then throw it to him. He threw it to him quickly. Brees got the ball in space and then was able to have a huge game and get a bunch of yards after catch. I thought that was something I saw him do a little bit better job of than he typically does. The other thing is, I just thought that we called a better game. We called the game that gave him more of an opportunity to succeed. And I think that is especially shown when you look at the second half. We threw 10 straight passes at one point. We never throw 10 straight passes. But you know what? In the second half, I feel like Zach started, as they say, letting it rip, and Hackett started letting it rip a little bit. And I thought that when you do that and Zach is able to take a few more, risks, then we can kind of see some of those big plays that jump off of the screen. Orlovsky was talking about it earlier this week on Get Up. He was saying that out of the last 3 Super Bowl winning quarterbacks, all of them have been top 3 in interceptions during that season that they won the Super Bowl. In today's league, you've got to throw the ball down the field. Our defense is going to make up for some of those shortcomings and some of those potential turnovers. It was just good to see Zach get out there and, rip it, as we've been asking him to do. That throw, that crossbody throw to Garrett on the 3rd and long was, a throw that there's not many guys in the game can make. And I just thought he did a great job as well of throwing the 50-50 balls. There was times where, I think he would have been a little bit more tentative, trying not to turn the ball over. And I think that's also how he was being coached earlier in the season. And I think in this game, we heard the comments that he made to DJ Reed about what else can happen to me. I might as well, fuck it, let's go. And I thought we saw that in how he played, and he gave his guys a chance to win some 50-50 balls. And this game, once again, Zach looks a little bit better because we got up and we made some of those plays.
That's right. No, he definitely put his guys in position to potentially make plays. I think something that I heard this week that really resonated with me. Okay, first of all, I think we've been very critical of Nate Hackett and all that. Nathaniel Hackett didn't all of a sudden learn how to coach again this past week. He didn't forget how to coach before last week. We all have issues with things he's done. I think when you have more consistency and you have a continuous drive, then you see more things that the guy can do. If we're constantly 3 and out, the coordinator, everybody's going to think he sucks. Okay. The other thing that I heard that I really thought was interesting that I heard Bart Scott say, he said, look at the defense, right? The defense is so good. Why? Because we've been in this defense now for a few years. There were a couple of years ago where the defense would give up big plays and we'd be like, what the hell is going on? And blah, blah. When you have a team where the players are consistently in a program and learning, the team gets better in running that program. And I think we've seen that with our defense now, where you can take like a guy off the practice squad or something that's been in the program and will come in and know what he's supposed to do. I think we'll see that more in the offense. And that's why I don't think, I don't think we're going to change offensive coordinators going into next year anyway. But that's why I think you don't change them, because we need continuity for these guys to learn. And, we'll get into this, I'm sure, whenever you bring it up. But, that'll also have to do with Zach's future with the Jets as well.
Sure. Now, with Hackett specifically, there were some things that he did when it comes to just personnel packages and play calling that were much different than in, prior games. We typically run 11, which is, 2 wide receivers out, as much as anybody, and we don't have a very good receiving core. Michael Nania, he's been screaming on Jets X Factor. We have to start running less of that. We have to start running more 12, more 22. And in this game, as opposed to the league average, which is about 60%, which we were at, we only run about 44% of the 11. So I do think personnel-wise, we did take some more advantage of the personnel that we have. Ruckert getting involved. I thought that the running backs getting involved, both in they seem to be blocking better. Now, some of that, obviously, it looks like maybe we worked with especially Dalvin Cook this past week on, being able to not only identify, but execute those blocks. And some of it is, like you said, and like we've talked about before, as when I talked about the pony package, we'd see more of all of these things if we can sustain some drives, and then we can, the guy can start calling a game as opposed to consistently calling plays. So yes, I think that what comes, which one is the chicken or the egg? I do think some of it starts with Hackett calling a slightly better game. I do think he did. And listen, I hope that we figured something out, but I think that all of that, and we'll talk about it at the end of the segment, we'll really see, what all this really is in this next game against Miami, because Miami is a quality opponent. They got a great offense. They got a decent defense. It's a divisional game. They're coming in off of a loss, an embarrassing loss, so they're going to be ready to play. So we're really going to see if this was kind of just like a mirage and just a 1 week thing, or, if Zach ends up having a really good game and the offense looks a lot better. Now it seems like something truly has been unlocked.
Well, yes. And, what I think. I mean, it all starts up front. When we have a decent game up front, everything looks better. All the play calling looks better. Everything looks better if we are giving people time and blocking up front. And this week we did that for the most part. Although Becton didn't have a great game, we did that for the most part. And one thing you see with Zach is a couple of those times, I'm sure he was looking out the side eye because he realized Becton was having a hard time with that guy Green something. And there were a couple of times where Zach was really slick, where he let the guy got away from Becton. Zach just totally spun around and went around the guy, which is fantastic, and I think that's when he made that crossbody throw. But let's also realize one thing, Nick. If he does that crossbody throw, and it's an interception. We're like, are you and the people be screaming, are you an idiot? How do you make that pass across the field? Nobody should ever make that pass.
That
But
is absolutely one of those types of throws where it's like, okay.
absolutely.
But
Right.
as I said last week, take the risks. At this point, fuck it.
Nick, if he threw an interception there, or threw two interceptions, and we lost the game, nobody would be saying, oh, well, Zach took the risk. He took the risk we needed. Listen, it worked out because we caught the ball and everything. And I hope we keep doing that. And like I tell you all the time, the receivers have to be cognizant of the fact that if my quarterback is going to take this risk, the one thing I can't do is let him throw an interception. So the receiver has to either catch that ball or turn into the best defensive back in the world. Just don't let the interception. Incompletion, fine. No interception. And that's on you, the receiver.
Absolutely. Garrett Wilson, he looked like Garrett that game. Got 14 targets, had 9 catches, 108, had one amazing catch and almost toe tap that they ended up calling out of bounds. I'm not even 100% sure.
So close.
It was so close. I'm not even sure. I mean, Brees had only 10 carries for 40 yards, good average, not a lot of carries, but we were airing it out, and he got 8 catches for 86 receiving yards. I think that's huge for Brees. Brees is actually right now, he is 4th in yards after catch, and he has broken the most tackles after catch of anybody in the NFL. There's nice. Number two is Reek. And then, there's like Debo, the other people are on that list. And it doesn't even feel like he's gotten a ton of touches. So it just shows how dynamic he is. I mentioned it earlier. One of the big differences I saw was Zach was dropping back. If it wasn't there, he was getting that ball out to Brees quickly in the flat. And then Brees was able to make something happen. First guy never brings him down. He had that. He there's times where he does certain things where he just doesn't seem like he's moving fast, but nobody can catch up to him, or he's just running past people in the secondary. And, that's what Brees can do. Got to take advantage and get our weapons involved. Everything from the offense in the second half looked great. The first half was, it was rough again. We get to 0-0 at the half.
We had some those first half. We had some tough moments, Nick, but remember, I think we had some stupid penalties as we got onto the other side of the field in the first half. And the offense just wasn't quite clicking yet. And somehow it seemed to click in the second half. Now, can we start out that way in the next game? But what I think is the wrong narrative is people say, well, Zach didn't have a good first half. I don't think he had a bad first half. The offense as a whole didn't have a good first half. Zach himself didn't have a bad first half. He had that one sack. And yeah, he shouldn't take that sack, but you know what? Every quarterback in the NFL gets sacked. I see quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes getting sacked on third downs when, you say you can't take that sack. Well, you know what? Sometimes these guys get you a little faster than you expected, and that's what happens. But that said, he can always improve. He can get better, like he said.
To all the people that listen to this show consistently, I want you to, in the comments, I want to know who loves more. Who loves who more? Do you love Zach more, or do I love Julius Randle more? Because, oh, man.
If they could hear you during the week, all week, and you're, just constant, love letters to Julius and refusal to accept anything as Julius's fault. No, I won't say that. But no, I think you love Julius more. Clearly, you're captain of his fan club. Listen, I'm ready. No, I said a couple weeks ago, okay, if they got to change, they got to change. But I honestly think, Nick, and I've told you this, and this is just me being honest as my dog annoys me. I think that, and this is just saying, if Zach plays decent the next few games, the rest of the season, I honestly think that we're going to regret someday if Zach leaves the team after this season. Because I think if Zach can play smart and do the things we need him to do, or some other team needs him to do, I think his talent is there. And I think there are many quarterbacks in the NFL that don't read the whole field right, or something like that, and blah, blah, blah. I think there are many quarterbacks that don't. I think, or some quarterbacks that don't. Not every quarterback is Tom Brady and is just like a machine mind. But if you can learn how to slow the game down a little bit, and I think he's getting that. The question is your ability. And I think his ability, like you said, he can do some things that a lot of guys just simply can't do. So we'll see. But and he can move, which I like. You know, I like a guy. I don't need a running guy like our guy in Baltimore, Jackson. Um, although that wouldn't be bad, I wouldn't hate that. But I do need a guy that can at least move in the pocket and maybe run for 10 yards, 15 yards when necessary. Like those other guys, Simeon and what's his name? Boyle. They can't move.
Right. They can't move. They're both statues back there. Zach, obviously can run. I think he needs to scramble even a little bit more and be a little bit more instinctual with it. And obviously, we found out on Sunday that he needs to be a little bit better when it comes to that ball security. The defense was so dominant that it didn't ended up, being a big deal, but that fumble could have been really costly. And as he plays this week against Miami, yeah, we're going to see if this is a facade, if this was a blip on the radar, if this is who this guy is starting to become to be. I'm conflicted now when it comes to Zach as far as like his future with the New York Jets, because you do see, I think that to go into next year with the plan of him being the backup quarterback would seem like it's insanity, because we saw how that played out this year. We brought in somebody to be the starter because we didn't think that he could handle that, going into this year. So I would like to see us definitely bring in a veteran, a Brissett, somebody of that, that ilk, a guy who's been around, game manager type, just in case, Aaron's not able to stay healthy. But it does kind of feel like, how do you let this guy get off of the roster when we haven't mismanaged him as badly as we did Darnold, but we also have not always given him the best chance and put him in the best position to succeed. And you see certain games and it flashes. It's just the rest of the season is going to be really telling, because he's done this a couple times throughout his career. He's had like 3 or 4 really good games in his career, and then he follows that up with a stinker, and usually a string of stinkers. So I'm just hoping that we see him continue to progress, continue to play the way that he played this past Sunday. And if we do, that does make that end of the season, that off-season decision very interesting as far as what you do with this guy. We have an option on him. I think it's like 23, but it only counts like 11 against the salary cap, against the cap. I still don't understand the NFL.
What does somebody like Zach get paid like this year, Nick?
I think this year he's probably making probably just under 10. I think that last year it jumps up big. So that, I don't know, but I'll look it up. But no, I just think that it's really about these last few games, and we see what he does, and we see if he can add a little bit of consistency to his resume, because that's one thing he hasn't had.
I think he's going to be a viable quarterback in this league, one way or another. I hope it's with us. I would be very disappointed to see him go somewhere and light it up. I honestly I didn't think that was going to happen with Geno Smith, to be honest. And I mean, it's quite a few years removed from the Jets days, so I don't worry about that too much. I don't think that's going to happen. We're going to see the same sort of success from Darnold, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about opportunity.
I just don't think Darnold, Nick, there's a lot of throws I see Zach make that I just don't think Darnold can make. I've never seen him make them. He doesn't have the arm that Zach has. He just doesn't. I don't think Geno has the arm that he has.
The one thing I would say about Darnold no, I don't think Zach has a superior arm talent to either of those people. That's for sure. That's never the issue with Zach. Zach, the issue is between the ears. It's not about what he can do physically. And when it comes to Darnold, the one thing I would say about him in comparison to Zach is when you look throughout his career, he had better overall games with really, really rough receiving talent and not a great offensive line. And he had a couple more just like strings of like 2 or 3 games in a row where he looked to be, a legitimate quarterback in the NFL. Zach's never been able to really pull that off. And hopefully we see him do it right now in this stretch run. Hey, we are not eliminated yet. We finished 9-8. We have a couple things bounce our way. Who knows what can happen? So, I'm here for it. Let's see. But at the end of the day, yeah, I don't think that I think that Darnold showed me just a little bit more to make me feel like he could be successful in the league than I've seen from Zach thus far.
you're not getting me back on the Jets might make the playoffs deal. That's yes, come on, stop.
Hey man,
Stop.
gotta believe a lot of
Okay.
things. Listen, and especially this week, all of the people that are just ahead of us in the standings, they all play NFC opponents. So therefore, even if when they win games, they won't somebody won't be getting a win and somebody gets a loss. It could just be all straight L's. And if that
Mhm.
happens and we win again, things start to get a little bit interesting.
True.
So hey, all you could do is go out there and win every week, do the best that you can. We'll see what happens. You know that we are in the anti-tank club over here, and everybody on that team definitely seems like they're still playing to win. That there's been some years previously, like I want to say Salah's first year, definitely in some of those bowls years, where at the end of the season it felt like we were giving up. And
Right.
I don't feel that way about this team at all. And that is something to be able to hang your hat on if you're Salah and if you're Joe Douglas and if you're a Jets fan.
Right. Absolutely. I've always liked the way he's kept them together. I think guys were giving up at the end of Gase because nobody liked Gase. Nobody respected Gase.
I think guys gave up like the second week of training camp with Gase.
Right. And we shouldn't even be saying his name. His name has been classified as a curse word
Right.
for all Jets fans. So we'll say that other guy or that other coach or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
That guy.
we move on. We'll just move away from that.
Yeah, man, it'll be interesting to see what happens this week in Miami. Obviously, Tyreek, he had the ankle last week. We see that when Tyreek is out, even for just a few quarters,
Mm-hmm.
to all of a sudden, and that entire offense doesn't look quite as good. So, hey, man,
Hey,
I never root for injury, but if
I don't
somebody,
remember injury, but like my man Bart always says, throw a little hot sauce on that ankle. Let's go.
let's go. Let's go. Absolutely. Tyreek is a problem, but I think that with an offense, if the offense can manage to sustain some success and get a few drives early, because that game against them last time, we were in it up until halftime, right? The Fail
Right.
Mary is when it started to kind of get away from us. But up until that, we were right there and the offense was doing nothing. So we'll see. It's going to be such just a glaring, depiction of what we were a few weeks ago and what we are now. Are we the same? Or did we figure something out last week and we're a little bit better? We shall see.
I think we beat them and we win a close game. I think that we can mess with Tua, man. I mean, I was watching some of that Miami game last week, and a team that is supposed to have the greatest offense, they get the ball back with a little bit of time left, and they couldn't get anything going. I mean, it looked terrible. I don't know if you saw the last few plays of
I
that
did.
game.
Tyreek wasn't on the field for a few of them.
I know, but I
Had to make
mean, Tua
changes.
couldn't get anything going. I mean, he couldn't even throw the ball. What it looked like, Nick, was like the Jets try to get something going in the end of a game, and we're hoping, okay, all we need is one score. All we need to do is push into field goal position, and they couldn't even get a first down. You know,
Yeah,
I gotta say, man, that's very interesting, and it gives me hope.
yeah, and not only that, but they also gave, it was like it had been like some crazy amount of time, like 30, 40 years since a team was up 14 with 3 minutes to go and ends up losing the game. And they
Brutal.
did it to Will Levi. And one of the things that I noticed in that game, one of the
Levis.
things Levis, sorry. Levi Levis. Yeah, if you want to hear names mispronounced, come to he did this to me. But that's kind of my specialty. But no, when it comes to this guy Levis, he's got some moxie to him. And the thing that I liked about the way that Vrabel played that game was at the end when they got the ball. I get so tired of teams just going in a straight prevent when they're trying to, stop a team from scoring at the end of a game, and that team just marches down the field. In today's NFL, how often do we see it? A team gets the ball back with 50 seconds, 90 seconds, and they go straight down the field because everybody's backing up so much. They stayed aggressive, and then with
Mm-hmm.
no Reek on the field, you got Braxton Berrios doing the Tyreek role, and they're kind of not the same. And so yeah, you saw them look very, very pedestrian on offense without Tyreek on the field. So, like you said, let's get some hot sauce on that ankle. Let's get him off the field. And let's just have DJ Reed following him all over the place, sauce every once in a while, switching on to him. And if we can limit him I really do think that we have a chance in this game. And then if we win this game, now I look at the end of the season totally different. I'm all in. Let's go 9-8. We're squeaking it.
Squeaking in. Yeah, that would be nice. But I think what you mentioned about Will Levis, so who's going to be available next year, obviously, is Ryan Tannehill. Now, can you afford to have a quarterback room with him, Zach, and A-Rod? No, you're not a Tannehill guy, huh?
No, absolutely
Do
not.
you prefer like a Jacoby Brissett or Gardner Minshew?
I would like, you know what I like about both of them as opposed to Tannehill is they're slightly mobile. I want a guy. If my like backup guy who is going to come in if A Rod gets hurt, I want him to be a game manager, slightly mobile type who's going to just like
Right,
let the defense do their thing, and he's going to make a few big plays a game, and that's all we need.
right, right. No, I hear you, and we'll see, man. That works for me, but it'll be interesting. Like you said, the next 4 games will tell the tale.
They will. They will. All right, let's pivot to the Knicks. Knicks have lost 2 of 3, and they got catastrophic news on Monday. Mitchell Robinson, surgery, stress factor in his left ankle. He will be reevaluated in 8 to 10 weeks. Horrible, horrible news for Mitch. I mean, obviously horrible news for everybody in Knicks Nation. But this guy, he's having definitely a first team all defense type of season, a possible defensive player of the year type of season. He's getting some national recognition and some pub for the first time in his life. That story with him and his former coach that got
Mm.
picked up by ESPN. People are starting to see him. He's starting to blossom, and it's really unfortunate. Feel really, really bad for the guy. He's, all the players were out with the Mitchell Robinson shirts at the pregame, the next game. The team supporting him. He's been posting on social media about, life is a battle, but you just got to keep pushing. Just, speedy recovery to Mitch. Really, really hurts to lose a guy who has the impact on the game that he does on a nightly basis.
Yeah, I was very sorry to see Mitch go down, and we need him desperately. Last night, his absence was glaring. The offensive glass is just like outrageous. And clearly, every team is going to be doing this to us, man. They're going to be going to the hole because, more guys went to the hole last night than have gone all year. And because they know Mitch ain't back there.
Yep.
So we're going to have to figure out a better way to do that. We're going to have to play a little bit better perimeter defense. Well, before I think guys could cheat a little more because they knew they had Mitch back there. But we've also got to step up our intensity on defense and play a little bit more aggressive, active hands, all of that, more than ever now because we don't have the ultimate stopper in Mitch. So I don't know. I think we're going to have to step up defensively, obviously. And honestly, the leader of that has to be your boy, Julius. We're going to need that from him, but if he does it, the rest will follow.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the defense has been historically bad here recently. 130 points in 3 straight games. It's the first time that's happened since like the 50s, getting absolutely killed from 3. And like you said, some of it is the fact that some teams I feel like have been, taking advantage of the fact that we play drop coverage, but there's also times that we're just simply not hustling out and getting to the 3-point line. And we're not doing it with enough pace. And just like there's just not that fire to get out there. I don't see teams having to, thinking they're having an open 3 and having to pass off and get to the second and third option. There's way too many one pass wide open 3s happening. And it's something that we absolutely have to get in line and do so quickly because we have a brutal month coming up ahead of us. With as far as the schedule, our next 8 games that we play are all against teams that are over 500. The next 4 of them will be on the road. And we just got to step up the effort level. I think it's something that we'll get right because I have faith in Tibbs. This is the thing that he does. But it needs to happen. It needs to happen really quickly. Last night, the Jazz, they end up shooting 16 of 42 from 3. They only average making 13 a game. The Knicks only shoot 9 of 39. As I've said all season, as our 3-point shots go, the Knicks will go. Now, as far as there's a few different things that lead up to whether or not we are shooting the 3 ball well, but whether it's moving the ball, whether it's getting the paint, whether it's kicking it out, whether it's the overall ball movement. When we shoot 9 of 39, we're going to have a tough time winning games. And we have shot the ball from three very well this year. The volume was a little bit low to start. We've stepped that up. Now we just got to start making, we just need to have more games where we string together and not having that occasional stinker. And the thing is that, yeah, you cannot have a great game from three, but 9 of 39 is almost always going to end up in an L. The team comes back at the end. They make you feel like you have a chance just so I can get my heart rate up one more time before they go ahead and shatter it. The defense, wildly inconsistent. We had certain little patches throughout the game where we played well. And then we had that 23-9 run in the fourth quarter where all of a sudden the defensive intensity turns up. It's just we need to be able to sustain that for 48, or at least 40 out of the 48 minutes of a game. I mean, obviously it's hard to do that the entire game, but we got to be better. Josh Hart, I had to throw this out there. 29 minutes yesterday, 0 points, 0 of 5 from three. At the end of the game, you had Josh Hart, ball gets kicked to him from Julius, puts it up off the rim. Then we get we end up getting the offensive rebound the ball at one point later, and we get it kicked to Brunson. This is the three to be able to tie it. Brunson off once again. And we end up taking a brutal loss. And that was the game on the schedule in this road trip that it was like, okay, you got to have this one. So it's just disappointing that we weren't able to turn it up until the end, and then it was too late.
But now tomorrow we go against this big three here in Phoenix, who lost to Brooklyn yesterday, by the way. So, what's going to happen tomorrow night? I don't know. I will be your on the spot reporter there tomorrow. No, just kidding. But I will be at the game rooting for the Knicks, and hopefully we can pull out a win so I can laugh in the faces of many Suns fans, most notably our cousin, Carl Jenkins.
Yeah, nah. It's a shame. It's going to be the first time since 2014 that the Knicks are coming to the Valley, and I won't be in attendance. My son's playing the playoffs for his flag football, and the sacrifices that we make. I will be there instead of at the game. But definitely hope you get to enjoy and see a Knick win. Brunson's making me a little bit nervous. All right. I mean, last night was honestly maybe the worst game that he's maybe had as a Knick. He ends up with decent numbers, 23, 7, and 8, but he's 6 of 16 from the field, 11 of 16 from the line, even missing big ones towards the end, and 0 of 6, including that game-tying, what would be game-tying three at the end. That I swear when that was in the air, I thought it was a good look. I thought it was going to go. I thought it was like it's finally going to go for him. But yeah, Brunson, tough game, and he's been struggling not just in this past game, but here these last few games. Last three games, he's a combined 3 for 21 from three. I'm no mathematician, but I think that's 14%, and he's got 11 turnovers. The turnover thing in the game against Toronto, the turnovers down the stretch were mind-boggling. Dad, there was one point, and I texted you this. I couldn't believe that I actually was even having this thought, but there was one point at the end of the game that I was like, just get the ball. I wanted them to inbound the ball to Julius and not give it to Brunson. Because Julius was handling the ball well in some of those situations, and Brunson was just like careless turnovers where it seems almost just like he's being so loosey-goosey with the ball, and that's not like him. I don't know what's going on with Brunson. I know he's coming off the ankle. He's a little dinged up, but he doesn't look like he's dinged up. He just looks like he's missing a lot of shots that he typically makes. And one thing about Brunson, I got to throw this out there. I got this is a tweet that my guy Frank Barrett, he's a contributor over at the Strickland, and with the Strickland is great for any type of Knicks breakdowns of some different stats and things like that. But he tweeted last night after the game. He said people will hate this, and maybe rightfully so. But if Julius Randle did what Jalen Brunson did tonight, hijacked the offense, took it out of the hands of by far the best player to try and draw fouls, he'd get crushed for the next 48 hours. Maybe something to keep in perspective.
Yeah, well, okay. That's not rocket science, Nick. Julius Randle has a much shorter leash than anyone else. Definitely much shorter than Brunson. That's a given. I told you that from last season and the year before. Julius Randle has a shorter leash because people have gotten frustrated with Julius in the past. No one's reached that level of frustration yet with Brunson, and hopefully they don't. But Julius Randle's on the upswing, so that's a good thing. And he hasn't given us any reason this year to moan and groan too much. And if he keeps playing like he's playing, man, there's going to be no problem. But is his leash shorter than most, or shorter than most of the guys on the Knicks? Yeah, it is. And I think that's the way it's going to stay, because I still see people, Nick, screaming that they should trade Julius now. As well as he's playing, trade Julius. I don't understand it. I think people get upset with somebody at one point, like I did, like many of us did with Julius. But you have to move on and realize when a man is playing better and playing more within himself and playing smarter. I don't understand how people could be talking about now to trade Julius Randle. That's nutty. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Listen, I know you and I have joked about. I don't know if Julia saw a hypnotist or what, but it
I think he
seems
did.
like all of the things that I have ever wanted Julius Randle to do, it seems like there's been some sort of revelation, and all of a sudden he's playing exactly the way that I've always dreamed he could play. And it's sustained. I mean, it's over the last 7 games. He's averaging 29, 10 of 6. He's shooting 60% from the floor, 42% from three. And the amount of times that he's going in and just going straight strong to the basket, or slowly, methodically just bumping somebody until they're out of the way, using that size and strength that we've always known he has, but using it in a controlled manner. And he seems like he's hunting the easiest shots, where it seems like he's always tried to make every shot he takes as hard as possible. He's been unbelievable. Honestly, Dad, the way that he's played during this last stretch, I mean, going back to that Milwaukee game and even a couple games before that, it's like this guy is a best, the guy that we've seen, and obviously we got to see him sustain it, but the guy that we've seen here recently, that guy is a best player on a championship level team player. He's looking like a top 10 player. He does it all. He is fantastic at passing out of the double team. Even when he leaves his feet, I've even gotten to the point where I just almost accept that as part of what he does, because recently they've all been on point, and quite frankly, his assist numbers will be higher if we shoot a little bit better. That his turnover numbers are down as well. I mean, I'm just talking about the eye test. Like something's happened. Something's happened starting about 7 games ago, where this guy, for some reason, has just slowed down, started playing with an entire different level of patience, and he's playing at his pace. Nobody's speeding him up. Nobody's slowing him down. He's doing what he wants to do on the floor, and no one can stop him.
It's that Bruce Lee shit kicking in for sure, man. Be like water, baby. It's something's working, and he got a Bruce Lee tattoo. Maybe he like looks at it before every game or every timeout. I don't know, but something's going on. And I like your hypnotist idea. That makes a lot of sense to me. And then I'm telling you, somebody says a safe word to him after the game, and he ends up being Julius again. But right before the game, somebody says to him, my choice of words is burlap. They just say, Julius, burlap. And he's like, burlap. And then he just plays like out of his mind. It's a guarantee.
Well, listen, we gotta keep whatever the word that snaps him out of it under wraps. We can't let any opposing benches or
that to him in
figure
mid-game.
that out. Yeah. No, but I just hope he keeps it up, man. I hope he keeps it up. And as far as the fan base, I'm sorry, but like, give it up for this fucking guy. This guy is playing his ass off, and to me, I'm not nervous about Brunson. He's starting to make me a little bit nervous, but I love Brunson. I think Brunson's a great player. I'm so glad that we have him, and I think that he'll get it figured out. He's just in a bit of a lull right now. But I do look at specifically like last night's game, where it wasn't just that Brunson played badly. There was times where he was trying to force the action and trying to get fouls, and he wasn't getting them. And then it was just destroying our offense. And at that same time, Julius was cooking, because he was cooking pretty much the entire game. And it's like, when you juxtaposition that and you flip it around, and you make them switch roles, if Brunson's cooking like that and Julius is playing like that, arguing with the refs, all that, people would be just all fucking over him about that.
Yeah, they would.
And I just think that, we got to have a little bit of perspective, take a step back and realize that there are ebbs and flows. But overall, once again, all NBA all-star players are not growing on trees, and they definitely not have been growing in the garden, unintended, for many, many years. So we should be, more than thankful for this guy. Show this guy some love. That dunk, he's firing at the crowd, yelling at the crowd. I mean, come on, man. That's awesome. I love that shit, yo. I love that shit. So I just hope we give my man Julius some love. I hope people are starting to come around. But at the end of the day, if he keeps playing like he's playing right now, he'll be undeniable. The love will come. So he just needs to keep it up, keep it together, keep flowing, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I think he could do it. I mean, he's clearly got the ability. It's just between the ears, and he seems to be more settled in his thought process now. So I feel a lot more confident in Julius right now than I have in years past.
Yeah, your man RJ, he got the migraines and completely reverted back to his old self. Ever since then, now his numbers have nosedived. He's shooting 30-something% from three. The only thing that he's still continuing to do well is get to the line and make his free throws. But RJ just seems a little bit off. It seemed like he had a little bit of a pep in his step early in the season. His threes were falling at a rate that they never have before. He sits out a few games. He's got the migraines, the sickness. Some people say knee. Who knows what it is? But he hasn't been able to regain that form since he's come back. And last night he got benched for the entire fourth. And he ends up, like I said, only being 3 for 16. And we need RJ. Like that RJ ascension is something that seemed like it was happening, and now he's regressed back to the old RJ, and it's very distressing.
Yeah, I mean, RJ will come around. I do believe he will come around. I think what we saw early this season, we're going to see more of that. I think RJ, like you said, he got out of rhythm a little bit. I think he'll be all right. And I think, in the last couple of games, Grimes has looked pretty good. So you ride with him going down the stretch. Obviously, DiVincenzo gives you so many intangibles that you love having that guy on the court. I think this configuration now with DiVincenzo starting and Grimes coming off the bench is the best. I think that's a good configuration because Grimes just clearly feels a lot freer with that second team, which allows him to be more aggressive, which makes him so much better. And DiVincenzo, like we've said before, he doesn't even have to score, man. That guy does so many other things with that starting unit that we absolutely need, especially with Mitchell Robinson now, because he's a good rebounder. And I'm happy with that lineup change.
Yeah, he had one stretch yesterday where he had a tap dunk and then two massive defensive rebounds going in amongst the trees and just snatching the ball. I love DiVincenzo's game. I mean, all those Villanova dudes, they all have certain intangibles and they all play a certain way. His movement away from the ball, I think, really helps with Julius, and he and Julius seem to have some synergy too.
Yes.
And I think that it is the perfect situation for him to be the starting two and Grimes to come off the bench, because when Grimes comes off the bench, he gets to handle the ball a little bit more in that second lineup, and that seems to be that seems to unlock him and allow him to feel more confident, more free. I think he had a little bit of Zach Wilson in him too, is where he was just like, "Yo, I already been benched, fuck it," and he ends up having his two best games of the season behind that. Last night against Utah, he didn't play so great. I thought that, and I was texting you during the game, I thought that he got left in the game a little bit long in the fourth quarter. I also thought that maybe we needed to insert Julius in the game a little bit earlier in the fourth quarter. I think that I've always said with Tibbs, one of my biggest criticisms of him is that he seems to be a little bit too rigid with his rotations and his inability to make in-game adjustments depending on what's going on. I thought Quickley maybe should have stolen some of those Brunson minutes, especially like beginning of the fourth quarter. You put Brunson back in. Brunson just didn't have it. It wasn't a great game for him. I'm not saying that you can't go away from the guy. He's your guy. You can't just totally go away from him. But maybe Quickley getting a couple more of those minutes. I didn't know this until today, that Quickley's numbers, they are up across the board. Everything when it comes to both volume, statistics accumulated, and also when it comes to all the different metrics, true shooting percentage, whatever you want to look at, all up. He's averaging 5 minutes less per game than he was last year. And I know Quickley can't be too happy about that. And it seems like it doesn't. I can't figure out a reason. Like I would love to talk to Tibbs and figure out, what is it that's leading to him, averaging 5 minutes less per game. And then RJ also, they showed him one time in the fourth yesterday, and he's pretty fetty about the fact that he wasn't. He looked just in his face wise, he looked like he was a little upset, a little bit annoyed. And I'm sure a competitor like him, he wants to be in the game in the fourth quarter.
Sure.
The Quickley thing is when I saw that he's averaging 5 minutes less per game, that jumped off the screen to me. I found that very surprising.
Yeah, I mean, the RJ thing, I feel bad for RJ, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, when you're 3 of 16, it's not your night, man. And I get it. We should have brought him back in the fourth quarter, but it didn't happen. It's going to happen sometimes with players. It's happened with Julius, where he sat on the bench for most of it. The only player I don't really see that happening with necessarily is Brunson. He'll always be in the game at the end, usually. But things happen, man. Just you got to roll with it. If it becomes a pattern, then I can see you being annoyed if you're a player. But when you're having a terrible shooting night and you're shooting 3 of 16, you can't be expecting anything. Whatever happens after that point.
What do you think of Quick averaging 5 minutes less per game this season?
I'm surprised at that, but I will say this too. Quick plays well. I love what he's been doing. But Quick has had some really, really stupid turnovers at times. Not many, but more than I usually expect from him. And that's why it's very disappointing at times. But, I think Quick is playing well. I think it's so early in the season. People don't need to get carried away with stuff. I think these things have a way of working themselves out. I don't think we're going to trade Quick in season for any reason. I think Quick will be fine. And I hope we're able to sign him after the season's over and keep him.
Yeah, I mean, the only way I see Quickley going is if maybe like a Donovan Mitchell becomes available, or somebody of that caliber. I could see him being involved in that deal. I think that we need to find more time for him on the floor, and I don't know if that comes at the expense of Grimes. I thought that even last night, when there was a point where I thought that maybe I would have liked to see a little bit more RJ instead of Josh Hart. But I mean, Josh Hart also can all of a sudden make a huge play that totally changes the game, a rebound, whatever. So it's a good problem to have. Just hopefully Tibbs can press the right buttons moving forward. I do think that we have to figure out a way to get Quick. He shouldn't be averaging 5 less minutes than last season. I don't know exactly how you fix that rotationally, but I do think that should even itself out, or, if anything, he should be averaging more time on the floor than he did last season. I thought earlier in the season, there was a lot of times that, especially late in games, where there was some Grimes on the floor, and I was like, get Grimes out, get Quick in. And I know that Grimes does a lot defensively for the team, but Quickley is such a dynamic offensive player, and Quick is a knockdown shooter. And he was having a good night from the field last night, and that was the thing that we were deficient in. So I would have liked to see him get a little bit more time, especially late in the game. But hindsight's always 2020. Hopefully we can figure out a way in Phoenix on Friday. And then we got the Clippers, and then we got the Clippers again back to back on Saturday, and then we got the Lakers on Monday. Hopefully we'll have Taj back on the bench by then. Welcome back, Taj. Love that we signed him. He's a great voice to have in the locker room and can give you some solid minutes. I think that first baseline, that first corner three that he hits, and the bench goes wild. That'll be a moment I'm looking forward to.
Of course. That's immediately what I thought of. At least now we have a big man that can hit a jump shot, So we'll see. I think Taj is a good pickup. There's no reason not to do that. I mean, why wouldn't you? I mean, there's really no downside to Taj, So bring him back. Let's go. Let's see what he got.
Yeah, and that's speaking of our big men, one thing that you just made me think about was last night was probably one of the worst games that Hartenstein has had all season. He's been great for us this year. I do think that we might start to see him get exposed a little bit now that there's no Mitch, and he has to play more minutes. The one thing that I was looking for again when it came to the lineup that I was thinking towards the end of the game, I was maybe thinking give me a little bit more Sims just for the rim protection, because as you said, that dude Horton Tucker, that thickums, he's just dribbling down the floor like he's like a young Charles Barkley and just going straight through and laying cats. And it was like, all right, I need somebody who is a little bit more of a rim protector, and maybe that's you know, the thing is that is Hartenstein that much worse of a rim protector? I can't even really say that's the case. So I mean, I
Then
don't know.
who? Sims?
Yeah, then Sims.
I mean, Sims can jump, Nick, but he's not a great shot blocker.
Not a great shot blocker, and he also just
No,
doesn't understand the rotations as well as Hardenstein does.
no, he doesn't. He doesn't. I like Sims and everything, but he's an average guy with a well above average ability, physical ability, but he's an average player, man. He's not that great.
Yeah, he gets up to the rim and puts it in so quickly. I thought when Julius made that pass to him at one point yesterday, it almost seemed like he dunked the ball twice. Like he grabbed it, dunked it, caught it on the way through the rim, and then dunked it again.
He could do all of that on the way down. It's
Yeah. Yeah, crazy athlete. I want to see him hopefully mature and get a little bit better at the shot blocking aspect of it because he has all the ability to do it. I think a lot of it's just going to come with him, just more reps and just like getting that timing. And like I've said to you a million times before, when it comes to shot blocking, I think that there is a certain innate timing that some guys have that other guys, no matter how much they try or how much they work on it, they're just not going to have it. Like, and you know, Mitchell is one of those natural guys. It doesn't seem like Sims is, but
no,
we'll see. You know, if he doesn't start doing something, Taj is going to be taking the minutes in short order. So time for him to step up. He's got his opportunity. Time for him to, you know, show something to make it happen.
that's right. That's right. It's on him. We'll see.
Yeah, no Mets today. Just get Yamamoto and extend Pete, please.
Please.
Please. And then OHTANI, 10 for 700. Goes to the Dodgers, but then the news comes out that 680 million are deferred. People want to talk about the Bobby Bonilla deal. Well, this is 680 that's deferred. He'll be making an average of $2 million per year throughout his career, throughout his contract with the Dodgers. And the cool thing is that, you know, you're going to have a guy on a team that already has a huge Asian market. They're going to make a ton of money. And I want to see how this affects contracts going forward and kind of what mix up this is, because I'm sure that there's some owners, maybe even some players union people who are not stoked about the fact that this guy is deferring all this money, which he still gets the money. It's not like he's not giving the money
and
away.
he gets it over the next 10 years. It's not like Bonilla contract that stretches out 25 years. He gets that from 2034 through 44.
Right.
And what I also heard somebody said about it is the deal is with playing in California, Nick, with the taxes out there and everything. Now this guy's not going to suffer those taxes. He's not going to be living in California when he's getting that real money. And he makes $40 million a year in endorsements. So yeah, some people say, oh, he's only making $2 million a year. No, the guy's still going to make 40 some odd million dollars a year. He'll be fine. Trust me. But he won't be suffering the tax burden he would have by being in California with that salary. You know, I get that. That makes perfect sense. That will be interesting to see if this will affect the way contracts go now, because the crazy thing about it is, like I heard someone say the other day, is the Dodgers can easily go out and go after Yamamoto now still because they haven't spent a lot of money this year. I do think it's a little risky, though. Like I think I said to you, I mean, I'm assuming there's some insurance about this, but what if the Dodgers leadership ends up in a Bernie Madoff type situation, like the Wilpons did?
Well, he does have that opt out where he would be able to bounce and opt out if that happens. If the
I know that, but is he going to get all his money?
They're going to get, yes, he's going to get all his money.
I assume he's going to get it somehow.
Like you said, there has to be some insurance or something like that where there's no way they're going to be able to pay him as much. And the thing is that as much as that seems like a huge number to the guys that own, it's not that huge a number to these people. It's just not. So no, I don't think that'll be an issue. I do think it'll be interesting. I think that he clearly wants to win. He's given them the flexibility. It's a good deal for the Dodgers just because they just set records in the last 48 hours with how many jerseys that they sold. I mean, everybody in Japan and a lot of other Asian countries is going to be walking around in these. And shit, I mean, plenty of people in this country, who
That's
aren't
right.
even of Asian descent are going to be walking around with that jersey on. So, I mean, yeah, definitely a score for them. We'll see if he ends up being able to, pitch again. But him in that lineup, I mean, Mookie, Freeman, and, and Shohei,
Holy
that's going to be a
smokes.
tough one. But the Dodgers have been consistently kicking out these, all-star teams here recently, and they got one ring to show for it, and that
Right.
was in that abbreviated COVID season. So, as we know as Mets fans, just because you go out and sign everybody does not mean that it's all going to come to fruition and you're just a shoe-in for the World Series. Baseball, probably the most unpredictable sport, but they are definitely going for it, continue to have been for a long time, and they still have a really good farm system as well. And that's one of the things that's allowed them to make some of these different trades that they have, is that they have a good system. That's one thing I've noticed from the Mets here. We're signing a lot of guys who don't necessarily jump off the page, but it seems like we're just trying to build up. We just signed Clay's little
Yeah.
brother. And
Who's little
so,
brother?
Clay Thompson's little brother.
Oh, yes, 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 yes. I did see that.
Yeah, we just signed him. And so, yeah, it looks like we're trying to, get that farm in the position where we can make some of these big moves. And we're still trying to spend. Hopefully we can get Yamamoto. I've heard that we're in the select few that are really still in that game. Bunch of different
Hmm.
reports. We'll see how that happens. But good for Shohei. Good for him getting his money. Good for the Dodgers. I wish we could have, got him to the American League, but at least he's way out there on the West. So we'll only see him a few times a year and possibly in the NLCS.
Hmm. Yeah, hopefully.
Did you see what Stephen A had to say about Zion?
Yeah, about him, that he eats too much and all that. But then, did you see Zion's response?
Yes.
And I thought Zion had a perfect response. He says, if they say that out of love, I appreciate it. If they say that out of, being critical, everybody's entitled to an opinion. So that was the proper reaction by him as a mature young man. I hope he's making
He's. I
good
don't know if he's.
decisions.
I don't know if he's so mature. So just
Well, he's
to
mature in his reaction. I don't know how
yes,
mature he is. His reaction was mature.
I don't think that. I listen. I think that hopefully he has somebody at least from New Orleans Pelicans PR talking to him, and I'm sure that they said that this is pretty much the only route that you can go with this. If you try to
Of
get into a
course.
war of words and go back and forth, especially with your boy screaming A, that's not going to go so well for you.
No.
And especially when everybody with their eyeballs can see what Stephen A is talking about. He had a bunch of quotes on it in his podcast last week. The one that I found to be the most funny was, I'm not
That he'll eat the
exaggerating.
table.
I'm not exaggerating. I'm quoting people. You got chefs in New Orleans who love him. They're looking for him. Every chef there wants to meet him. The word on Zion Williams is that he will eat the table.
I know. I know.
But he said that was a direct quote. And Stephen A ain't just popping off with no shit that he didn't hear, that's not legit, that he doesn't
Mm-hmm.
think is 100% true and probably is true. And I even loved Stephen A's response about the fact that, listen, I want the best out of this young brother. The league is better. My job is easier. Everything's more exciting if we get this out of him. But he clearly is not in tip-top elite athlete shape. You could just look at him and tell that. And with all of these different, reports about, how much he loves to eat and, even having a bit of an affinity for furniture. But on top of that, you got guys taking selfies with him as they're serving him at Wendy's. Zion,
Yeah, not
you're
good.
a world-class athlete, okay?
Stop eating Wendy's.
You can't be getting any food through a window, period.
No.
No, you could have some hype chef who's going to make stuff that's still delicious, but
Right.
it's a little bit more healthy. It's not like you got to go, straight. No, you still need fuel. You can still eat pretty well. You just can't go crazy. And you got another like 10 years of tightening that part up. And if you can do that and you can make yourself a highly conditioned world-class athlete, you can make hundreds upon hundreds, and with the way the contracts are going now, could be billions of dollars. Do not
Yeah.
eat yourself out of billions of dollars, Zion.
I hope
You
not,
have to
man.
be better. You have to get this under control. Stay off the gumbo circuit. put down the Cheetos and the Sprite and go make this money, yo. Come on, man. Zion, you gotta be better.
Yeah, I'm hoping he gets it figured out and somebody gets in his ear. He looked like he was in great shape coming into the season, where he was working out and they were showing pictures of him and stuff. He looked great, but I just don't see that as much anymore. I thought I saw some more definition in him and whatnot.
That's
Now he's
angles.
looking,
When you see
yeah,
him in
now he's
certain
looking a little
angles,
more smooth.
you see him in certain angles and certain lighting, you could be like, oh shit, okay, all right, Zion. But when you watch him in motion, you watch him for an entire game and you look at him, you can see that he's got a bit of a belly. Like Stephen A said, he goes into the free throw line and he's got a belly. You're a fucking
That's
NBA
insanity.
basketball player. You can't have a belly.
That's insanity. He has to lose weight. And he's looking a little lazy on court at moments.
He averages 6 rebounds a game. There's no reason this guy shouldn't average 12 rebounds a game.
Yeah.
Julius Randle
if he's
averages
putting out
more
a better
rebounds.
effort.
Julius Randle averages more rebounds per game than Zion Williamson. And not only does Zion, not only is he the physical marvel that he is, as any strong as he is, but he also stays around the paint. He's not far away from the basket very often. So he should absolutely be averaging more rebounds. That is absolutely a product of his lack of conditioning and being able to consistently give that effort. And there's times where he looks like he's huffing and puffing, and we just know he's not maxing out his potential. We know that for a fact. We could look at him and tell that. And it's a shame because he's got all the talent in the world. I just really wish that, I hope he gets it figured out. He's still got plenty of time. You know, everybody's heard the Charles Barkley story about Moses Malone looking at him and telling him you're too fat and him figuring that out. And now, listen, he needs to go. Right now, he's at a fork in the road. I never even thought about this, but he's at a fork in the road. Zion is right there, and he can go one of two ways. He can go Charles Barkley, or he can go Sean Kemp. Yeah. Sean Kemp, who is the only man that was able to figure out how to become fat while playing professional basketball, having tons of sex and a bunch of kids, as well as doing cocaine. And he was still able to gain weight in that scenario, which seems impossible. Zion, I don't know what you got going on, but my man, don't go Sean Kemp route, go Barkley route. We all would like to see it. We'd all like to be able to enjoy Zion becoming the player that he can be.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, look, I got my fingers crossed for him. You and Stephen A, leave my man Gumbo alone. Let him do his thing.
All right, man. All right. Well, we'll see about Zion. Seems like he'd be a great person to go to, you know, to a Michelin star restaurant with. But I want to see him, you know, I want to see him excel on the court. All right. Last but not least, we're going to talk about your absolute favorite player in the NBA, Draymond Green. Draymond, with the big sweeping
roundhouse.
There's a big roundhouse to Nurkic. I mean, just an unexcusable play. This guy, I saw it, and I got a text like, "Oh my God, Draymond!" And so then I was like, "Oh, let me go check out and see what he did." And even still, I was just like, "Oh my God, like what the fuck with this guy?" I mean, to say that that it was unintentional, it's just wild. No one could look at that.
Bullshit.
It's such bullshit. And at this point, and you've heard a lot of guys, I heard KD say this, I heard Nurkic say it. They were saying, like, you know, hopefully this guy gets it figured out. It seems like there's something going on. And Stephen A even alluded to it today. He said it seems like there's something going on away from basketball that is affecting this man and his judgment on the court. I tend to think that he's just a wild asshole, because he's been doing stuff like this his entire career. I mean, correct. So I don't know what's going on with this guy, but I tell you, it's now really, really changing the overall just perception of him as a player in his career. It's getting to like Rasheed Wallace, I think sometimes doesn't get the love that he should, because the first thing you think about is all the texts, but he was getting texts for yelling at refs and shit. He wasn't doing dirty shit to other players.
Exactly. He was not doing anything violent. I mean, listen, man, you got to look at the whole body of work here. This guy's done some really egregious shit, Nick. And that roundhouse punch to Nurkic. Let me tell you something, man. If you're not old enough to know, but like when Kermit Washington and Rudy Tomjanovich, that ruined Tomjanovich's career. And Tomjanovich was a good player. Mm-hmm. Ruined his career. Okay, it's almost like a Ray Fosse, Pete Rose type of thing. Ruined his career. if he connects a little differently, maybe with his fist instead of, I guess, his forearm with Nurkic, you could have broke this guy's jaw. Okay, you got a 6'9" man, thick man, swinging around. I mean, every time I see it, I still see it now. I saw it earlier today, last night. I'm still stunned by it when I see it. I see it now, and I'm like, holy shit! I mean, what is going? The excuse he gave. I wish somebody had gotten a hold of him and just said to him, "You know what, Draymond? Just keep saying I messed up. I'm sorry." That excuse is such horseshit. And what it tells me, and I look at his reaction on the court afterwards, where he's looking at the ref like, "What?" I mean, I don't even know how you could even look the ref in the face and act like, "What did I do?" Dude, you just assaulted somebody on the court on TV. And I mean, literally, Nick, that was assault, man. Because at first I was thinking, when I couldn't remember it correctly, well, he just swung back like this. No, Nick, the guy touched his right hip. He turned all the way around with his right arm and hit the guy. That was, but in no means a mistake.
No.
Okay? That was an incredibly violent act. And I'm here to tell you, man, if that had been the Knicks, he did that too, I would have been so pissed, because it would have been somebody who I watch all the time and I care about as a player. I don't really know Nurkic, but I mean, dude, man, if he gets less than 10 games, I think that's a travesty. I think he deserves at least 10 games. I heard somebody arguing, well, what's the big deal? Nobody got hurt or whatever. I'm like, that's the stupidest thing in the world to look at it that way. He could have seriously, seriously injured somebody, and he needs to be held to account. His team, he's clearly just letting his team down. Okay,
he's going to miss half the season.
Forget what the team needs. I'm just going to go buck wild. And now, so some people want to claim it like, oh, he's got some issues, he needs to get help. See, Nick, I've seen people deal with mental health issues in the past. I'm sorry, I don't think Draymond has some deep-seated mental health issue. He's just an asshole, And I mean, seriously, Nick, he's just an asshole, number one. Number two, he's a fucking punk, too. That's some bitch shit to do. You just hit another man, totally. He basically snuck the dude, Nick, because this dude had no idea he was going to do that. He did the same thing to his teammates, okay? So we're seeing more and more now that this guy just hits people when they're not even gearing up to fight, dude. Right, and you just all of a sudden swing on somebody. I'm sorry, man. After that Jordan Poole shit last year, which I thought was really messed up, this guy's a jerk, man. And that's some cowardly shit, dude. That is some cowardly bitch shit to do, to hit another man like that when this man doesn't even know you're about to swing on him and has no idea that you're even upset. What are you doing?
Yeah. No, I mean, listen, and the thing about it is that when you talk about his team's reaction and what, they're seeing, and I thought one of the things that was so telling about this, first and foremost, he's he's definitely getting more than 10 games. I mean, indefinitely to me says more than 10 games. And
they did indefinitely with Kyrie last year, and he did 8 games.
Okay, but
totally different. Totally different.
This is a track record,
I agree.
And not a I think totally different. I think he's going to get more than 10, and I've seen where if you look at the games that he's missed, he's going to end up missing like almost like half of their games at one point, not for the entire season, but almost half of their games. And yes, the team needs him. The team just gave him this big deal. They just gave him $100 million over 4 years. Really? Where I saw somebody talk about trading for him. Nobody's trading for him.
Nobody wants him, Nick. I told you years ago I would not want him. I don't want him anywhere near my team. He's an asshole. And guess what? Like we said before, he'll suck on any other team, Nick.
Especially 4 years at $25 million per.
No one wants this guy. He is radioactive right now.
But Dad, one of the things one of the angles that they show after he connects with the roundhouse. There's one of the guys that's sitting on the bench. He doesn't play much for the Dubs. He's a light-skinned brother with Grimes' type hair, and he goes like his reaction was like, "Yo, what the fuck?" Like,
right.
You know, this guy's indefensible. No one can defend what he's been doing.
How
And
about this now, Nick? How about this? I heard somebody talking about Alan Hahn talking about, okay, so how long is it before you get the guy on the end of the bench, like hockey style, run in there and just incite a fight with Draymond? It'll be really easy to pick a fight with Draymond and get him out of the game.
really easy to do that. And also, you know what, man? I'm telling my like if my team is about to play the Dubs and Draymond is playing, there's some guy down on the end of the bench that I'm like, if he does some stupid shit, run off the bench. I'll pay all your fines. If I'm a big
That's right.
time player, I'll pay all your
Old
fines,
cock his
whatever,
ass.
and go
Knock his
fucking
ass
knock this
out.
motherfucker out. Exactly. Yeah,
Right.
because at this point, I mean, it's just too much, man. It's too much. It's too many times. It's too egregious, and he's got to get it under control. Now, I know this is an interesting question for you because I know that slightly higher slightly higher standards when it comes to this particular topic than most people do. But I've heard people say today, like, I think it might have been Stephen A, or if not, it was Jay Williams said that they think he is a first ballot Hall of Famer, Draymond.
See? No. I don't agree with that simply because, Nick, he's been a good player for this team, but I don't think he's that kind of talent. He is the perfect player for this team with these other guys on the team. I mean, I'm sorry. I don't think his talent translates, anywhere else. I don't think he'll ever play on any other team. He may make the Hall of Fame because everybody in basketball makes the Hall of Fame. Right. It seems, so many guys in the NBA get in, but I don't think he qualifies. And absolutely, if he does one more stupid thing like this, I don't think he should be in just because he's being a jackass.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the whole jackass part of it. I mean, even though he has done some questionable things on the floor, it's not like any of those off the floor type things that ends up making guys not be able to get in. And we haven't really seen that too much in basketball anyway. I do think he ends up getting into the Hall just because 4 All-Star appearances. He's got 10 all defensive teams, and he's won a Defensive Player of the Year. I think that you put those stats next to anybody's name, they're going to get into the Hall of Fame. I also, don't think that he is some otherworldly talent. He is absolutely in the perfect position, but he's also the perfect player for that team too. So that's all worked out for him great. It seems like he realizes that he's going to stay there for the rest of his career. They're not going to be able to trade him. There's no way anybody's taking him at that number. And he's such a glib, smart guy when you hear him talk. He seems like a bright guy, but he seems like when he gets on the floor, he just becomes not only an asshole, but a moron, like an idiot. Like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? You might have cost your team a championship a few years ago with that stupid shit you pulled with LeBron. Now, I don't think LeBron should have stepped over him the way that he did, but he clearly got up and tried to hit him in the nuts. You step on Steven, you kick Steven Adams in the nuts, which to me, not only does that show me that you're dirty, but you're stupid because Steven Adams, if he wants to, can break you in half. That guy's a fucking monster from New Zealand.
Right. And it's again, Nick, that's some bitch shit to do.
It is. It's some bitch
shit. Come on, man.
100%. And then
you got a beef with a guy, you kick him in the nuts. What are you, 4 years old? If my 4-year-old son did that, I would say you don't do that.
Right. And be very upset with him. And then your boy last year with Sabonis, where he steps on his chest. Again, like you said, this guy is 6'9", 250, 60 pounds. You can't just be putting your body weight on some other man's chest with your foot like that. That's a crazy thing to do. But yeah, man, I mean, he's just beyond all that. Like you said before, you're letting your team down. You're letting your team down. You're letting your team down, and you're guys who's supposed to be Mr. Team. And part of your persona is the fact that you've always been the guy who's willing to sacrifice the team. And right now, it seems like what you can't sacrifice the team is your own ego and just your own self-control, like
wanton jackassery.
Yeah. It's almost kind of sad to me that when I saw that, my first initial reaction was not like, oh shit, I can't believe that. I was a little bit sad for him and just like, come on, man, you got to be better than that. At this point, the microscope is on you and you want to do some wild shit like that. That just shows a real serious lack of control. Like he's a guy who plays basketball who I want them to study his brain for CTE someday, because it
Right.
seems like he does some shit that was just like the lack of rationale is mind-boggling, and I can't understand it.
Yeah, it's very distressing. It's a bad look all the way around. It's not good for the league. It's not good for anyone, and it's disappointing, man. Get yourself together, man. I mean, he needs to go. He needs to take a book from Aaron Rodgers and go on a darkness retreat or some shit. Get his mind right.
Yeah, maybe he needs some ayahuasca.
You know, can't hurt.
Catch us every week on YouTube or wherever you find your podcasts. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and make sure you hit that notification button on all platforms. Really appreciate all the love. We try to stay as current as possible, so episodes will drop on Thursdays or Fridays, depending on the Knicks schedule. You can find us on all socials at he_did this to me. Love you, big guy.
Love you, kid.